How's it going, everybody? So today I'm going to be making a feeder. The only animals you want to use this feeder for are ones that either have self-control or where them eating as much as possible is preferred. This one is going to go to Kevin. I wouldn't do one like this for the goats because goats don't know when to stop eating. I've got a 4-foot by 4-foot sheet of plywood, a couple of pieces of 2x6, some screws, and a couple of power tools. If you want to make one for yourself, most hardware stores, you can have them cut down sheets of plywood for you into your desired size, and all you'd really need beyond that is a handsaw and a drill. You don't really need the drill. You want to screw it in or nail it, but that's what I got. Mosquitoes are eating me alive. So I got the fence on the table saw set up to 24 inches. Turn this on, rip this down, rip this in half. So as you notice there, I didn't have my blade set really high. It helps with some tear out. I also kept my hands as far away as possible from the blade itself because I don't like getting cut. It doesn't feel good. So let's start cutting up some 2x6s. So I'm going to be taking one of these 2x6s, cutting it in half. They don't have to be pretty. This is going to end up being a pig feeder. So I'm going to take tape measure. I left it over there. And mark out 4 foot. I don't have to be terribly exact with this. I'm going to be using a screw as a marker. Just got to make a mark where you can see it. Switch the plug. Cut it in half. So these two pieces are going to get some more interesting cuts put on them. I broke them down in half so that they'd be easier to handle. I switched the the miter saw over to 15 degrees. I'm going to take just the corner off this end. So this is going to end up being the top side. You want to put a little bit of a slope on it so that when it does rain, what will happen is the lid on it will shed the water, not just pull it up on top. You don't want to be getting all of your feed wet. And these aren't exactly the best boards, but they'll do. So now I'll take it, switch it over to 30 degrees. I'll do the bottom side. So, the way it's going to work, this side's going to be the top. We're going to put a hinge on this side so that you can lift it up and fill the feeder from the top without having to get into your pig pen. Because I don't know if you've noticed this, but pigs aren't small, and when you're in their way, they'll move you one way or another. So this miter saw is big enough that I can go through and make both of these cuts at the same time. If your miter saw is not that big, don't try doing this, but I know for a fact this one is, and it'll make this cut. It bogged down a little bit, that's not a big deal. So, got two identical side pieces. They're all cut. So, now what I'm going to do is measure this from here to here, check the lengths. That brings it to 44.5 inches. So if I cut this directly out of here, it'll only give me 3.5 inches. Now on the back side, it's not that big of a deal, but I want to have enough plywood to go off of here. 3.5 inches won't cut it. So what I'll do is I'll sacrifice a little bit of height on this back side just to make sure I've got enough plywood for here. This is going to be a ramp so that the food will push forward. So that length is 6 3/8. Go back over to the table saw and cut out a strip of plywood that's 6 3/8. So with this table saw, there's a quick adjust. There's a little tape measure, a little marker. If you're not being 100% accurate, this is really nice because it'll make it so that you can set up and do quick cuts. Every time. So I only need one of these. I'll lift the blade just a hair. I grab a little piece of wood because 6 3/8 is a little closer than I'd like my hand to be to this table saw. I'm going to turn it on. There we go. We've got the back and the bottom portion of the box cut out. Not a pretty piece of plywood, but it was sitting in the yard. So now what we're going to do is take one of these. I'm going to measure the other side. I want to have 2 inches, sounds good. So yeah, about 2 inches off the bottom. We'll cut off 4 inches off of this. So the 4-inch piece will just be waste. Not a whole lot of waste. But from one end to the other, that's 46 inches. I want it to be 44 inches. So scooch this over a little bit. Over to about 4. Now make this cut. So when you start getting this closer to the blade, you want to stand off to the side because the piece that's right here might get caught and thrown that way. You don't want that. Don't grab that board before the blade has stopped spinning, because that might just send it straight into your belly. Alright, there's the cuts made. Now let's go back over to here, start screwing things together. So I've switched over my extension cord. I've got my screws ready. I've got my boards ready. Let's move this out the way. So I'm going to start off with the little piece along the back, because that'll be fairly easy to start setting our width. For projects like this, I'm not going to be moving around all that much. I prefer to use a corded tool, just for the fact of I don't like charging batteries. So you go through, start the screw, get it lined up, screw it in. And all you got to do is start screwing it together. There's the bottom screwed on. Now let's do the back. Doesn't matter which side you're putting down, because I don't think Kevin's gonna care what the back looks like. I don't think any animal you have will care what the back looks like either. Unless you're feeding your kids, in which case you might want to think about a different way of feeding your kids. Got the screws set at about 3 inches apart. Probably closer than they need to be, but I'd rather be safe than sorry. Do the same thing on this side. Now I just got to flip it over, screw the other side on. At this point, if you want to finish up the front end, you could probably turn it into a sleigh for your kids. Get this lined up. I wasn't expecting this to be perfect. It's not, but there's a got a 2-inch gap here so the food will spill out, spill down. I might adjust this later. I might move this down some if he's getting too much access to food. But for right now, I think it's good. I don't know for certain because this is the first one I built, but I think it's good. Now, I'm going to do the same thing as I did on the other side. Whole bunch of screws on both sides of this. Should hold it together nicely. So this right here is the storage box done. Now, looks like it'll hold probably about 1.5, maybe 2 50-pound bags of feed, which is about what I'm hoping for. Still got to check it every day just to make sure that your animals are not eating it all, dumping it all out. Like I said, I don't know what the 2-inch gap right here is going to do. I don't know if it's going to be too much or too little, but if it is, I'll either move it up or move it down, and that'll be good. Now to start working on the trough that's going to go on the bottom of this. So you don't want all this food just dumping right out on the ground. You want to make a trough. The trough, I've got another piece of 2x6. And if I need to, I've got some scraps of 2x6 that I'll grab a hold of. So for the pig, I'm going to have a 15-degree cut angle, cut off the end. I'm going to have a 2-foot cut from there. So that way, as he grows, he'll have plenty of space to stick his face. Got that set at 15 degrees. Actually, I changed my mind. I'm going to have a 2-foot cut as the first cut, and then I'm going to cut 15 degrees off of the ends. I'm going to grab my marking screw. I'm going to cut off 2 foot. Move it over. I'm going to copy the cut. Two pieces of wood with identical lengths is what I was going for. Now to cut off at 15 degrees. So this is going to get screwed to the outside. And for this I have some 3/8 1/8" screws, because these little 1 3/4 inches just won't make it. I don't have a whole lot of these left, but I'll use what I can. Now, feeder will stand up on its own. Got a big box. This area right here is going to have to get pieces of wood screwed to the bottom and the front. I'm going to use 2x6s for that, because that's where it's going to be seeing the most force from the animal. In my case, Kevin. It really helps if you don't keep misplacing your tape measure. Just going to measure between these two. It's 27 inches on the nose. Now, I can't make too many cuts at 27 inches out of what's left of this, but I've got some more scrap, so don't worry about it. So that's the first one at 27 inches, and instead of screwing it in right now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through and I'm going to use this one to copy out the rest of them, because from the looks of it, I'm going to need 5 boards cut to the same length. So I'll go work on that. Gotta scrounge up some wood. And this part here isn't going to go to waste. It's going to get placed inside so that screwing to it, there's a support in the center so that the weight of the feed pushing out doesn't end up caving this whole thing outwards. I'll get some more wood. So I went through off camera and cut out the last of the boards that we needed. Now I just gotta screw them all on. Just a couple of screws each one. Screwing it to the bottom should be good. So this is it, pretty much done. Got a nice large trough standing up on its own. So later on I'm going to put hinges here and here, because I'm not likely to get rain at the moment or anytime soon. But let's see what Kevin thinks of it. So it works at distributing just a little bit of food, and as you can tell, Kevin seems to enjoy it. Thinking probably about a day or so I'll be able to throw a second bag in. This is just one. Kevin is munching away happily. So, yeah, that's all I got for today. Y'all have fun. Bye.